It's a little bit after sunrise on Freedom Acres. And this morning I'm going to tell you the story of Tigra the cat while I take you for a walk with me. The moon is still up. Tigra the cat lived in a parking garage of a condo building on Hollandale Beach down in South Florida. She'd been there for years. She was being fed by people in the condo. And one particular person in the condo, my friend Carolina, was feeding Tigra and another cat there in the condo that had been there even longer, that I had fed when I lived in the same building. And one day, Carolina was told by one of the folks that worked there at the condo that was kind and loving and knew the cats that lived there and knew that Carolina was one of the people that definitely took care of them. Carolina was told that the condo association were going to trap the cats and send them to a kill shelter. When she found that out, I got a text message from her. Her text message was urgent, and of course, also loving and kind. And she said to me, I know you haven't had cats in 40 years. And I know that you're in between living situations. And I know that you're really allergic to cats. But this is what's happened. And is there any way at all that you could take this little cat if I were able to trap it? And I think my response was something like, if you can get her here, I'll take care of that cat. So a few days went by, and indeed, Carolina and her fiance, Allie, were able to get the cat. And a few more days later, around 9 o'clock in the middle of the week, Tigra the cat arrived in a car that was driven by someone Carolina had hired to get her to me. And that was when I met Tigra the cat. And Tigra arrived full feral. She wanted nothing to do with me or the new house she was in or the little dog Gracie that lived there. But there she was. Now part of our life in this temporary home that I was living in Tampa. In the very beginning, I kept her a little separate until I could get a mobile vet to come take care of her and check her out and make sure she was all right and that she was safe. And of course to make sure that nothing she might have brought in from the outside transferred to little Gracie. And then there was a long process of me loving up on Tigra and learning newly about having cats, or a cat. And we began bonding. It started slowly at first. She rubbed up against my leg one day. And then it continued. She would come and rub up against my leg more and more, and I would come sit in the room that I had given her so that she could feel like she was okay and alone, and not being bothered by us or chased down by the little dog. And I would come sit in the room and I would work, and she would start coming over and rubbing up against me. As life continued, she became more and more friendly with me. And then there came a point in time where she started wandering around the whole house and checking things out. She was such a sweet little girl. And then time continued, and now she was kind of following me around the house, and we were bonding even more. Each step along the way just felt like such a victory for me, because I just wanted her to feel safe, and I interpreted it as she felt safer, the fact that she was coming closer and closer to me. And then a little more than a month ago, I packed the house because I finally had the certificate of occupancy to come live here on the property. So I packed the house and I packed Tigra. I managed to get her into the little carrier again, and she rode in the passenger seat of the car here to the property. And it was her new home. This was going to be our forever home. I had been waiting 3 years to live here at that point, with all of the permitting and legalities that it took for me to develop the property. And now Tigra the cat and Gracie and I, we were here. And amazingly enough, once we were in this little tiny home here that we were going to live on, Tigra the cat became even more loving and seemed to be bonding with Gracie and I. She hopped up on the bed. She was sleeping with us. Then the most phenomenal thing happened one day, where suddenly I was working on my little couch, and there Tigra was. She jumped up in my lap. I think that was one of the most phenomenal days ever for me. And things had continued that way. We were all hanging out. Tigra in my lap most of the time. It was much colder here at the property than it had been at the house in Tampa. And so we snuggled in together. And Tigra sat by the French doors and she watched the outside. And she sat on the shelf by the window and she watched the outside. She was always looking outside. After all, she was a feral cat. She'd never been in a home before. I assumed the outside was something she lusted after, something that she wanted, even though that parking garage was very different than this terrain. But she had a lot more to watch here. And this brings me to last Monday. Last Monday, I had stepped out on the deck and I'd slammed the door behind me like I had a million times. And Gracie was barking behind the door like she always did, because Gracie wants to be wherever I am. And I literally just stepped outside of the door. My back was to the door and the wind was blowing hard. Gracie was barking and scratching at the door, and suddenly I heard the door open. And I turned around, and there was Gracie sitting there looking shocked. The door had never opened on her before. And Tigra the cat hopped right over Gracie and landed on the deck. had already, I had already realized that the minute she landed that I need to stay very still. You know, cats have a chase instinct. I need to stay very still, which I did. And I cooed at her and the little voices and little names that I've called her. Tiggy, Tigra, hi baby, hi. And Tigra the cat took a look at me and bolted off the deck. And I slowly, quietly followed her around the corner of the house to the back of the house. And at one point, I kind of started squatting down toward the ground because I thought, okay, if she realizes I'm not chasing her and I keep calling her, maybe she'll come back. But Tigra the cat took a look at me and bolted out onto the property. And that, my friends, is the last I've seen of Tigra the cat. I've been out here every morning at sunrise and every night at sunset. I've looked and called and done all the things that I've known to do and that everybody I know who knows feral cats has told me to do. And I still haven't seen Tigra the cat. And I've walked the property all day in between my calls, and at night I've come out with a flashlight and I've gotten down on my knees and my belly and looked underneath all of these saw palmetto groupings and throughout the property, but no little eyes. I've seen no little shining cat eyes. So, you know, sometimes cats will come back weeks later and months later and years later, and even feral cats will return to places where they recognize the sights and the sounds and they remember being. They're really brilliant creatures, and feral cats are highly trained at taking care of themselves. So, I don't know if she's still here on the property. I'm going to continue to look. And I pray wherever she is that she's enjoying her cat life. And I miss her. I miss her greatly. Ironically, here we are at Freedom Acres, where she decided to take the word freedom seriously for herself. So I ask you to send her love and send her prayers. And of course, pray that she comes back with me. And if she chooses not to come back, finds herself a feral community, or takes care of herself in some other way, and I pray that she's healthy and happy. And I ask you to pray that too with me. And I thank you for letting me share the story of Tigra the cat. I've learned so much with Tigra the cat. Most importantly, I think I keep learning about fear and freedom. What those mean to us beings. And love. Most importantly, about love. I continue to learn what love means to all of us beings. That love and freedom can exist together, and love and freedom can exist separately. I thank you for listening to the story about Tigra the cat.